chilling dread, thick and suffocating, swam in the exhausted eyes of Rosetta Sanchez. The familiar cacophony of her bustling home felt unnervingly distant, replaced by the ragged sound of her own breathing, shallow, desperate gasps that tore through the late afternoon quiet. Around her, only the younger children remained, their innocent faces etched with confusion that mirrored her own growing panic. They were her world, her everything. But in this terrifying moment, their youth was a stark reminder of her isolation. They couldn't drive. They couldn't summon the help she so desperately needed. Where was Michael? Her husband, her rock, seemed to have vanished into the ether just when the ground beneath her threatened to swallow her whole. A searing agony ripped through her abdomen, a monstrous fist clenching deep within. With a strangled cry, Rosetta crumpled, the solid floor rushing up to meet her as darkness claimed the edges of her vision. The last coherent thought, "This can't be happening." For 38-year-old Rosetta, residing in the sun-drenched landscapes of sunny New Mexico, the dream had always been beautifully, chaotically simple. A house overflowing with the laughter and footsteps of children. Her smile was infectious, a beacon of warmth, her heart fashioned from pure gold. Her desire for a sprawling family was an unquenchable fire within her soul. Michael, her devoted husband, shared this vibrant dream, envisioning their home as a haven brimming with life. Growing up in a small New Mexico town herself, amidst a tight-knit but smaller family, Rosetta had yearned for the vibrant energy, the constant companionship, the sheer presence of numerous siblings. It wasn't just a wish, it felt like her destiny. So, she answered the call of her heart. At the tender age of 25, she welcomed her first son into the world. What followed was a whirlwind decade, a continuous cycle of burgeoning life. Year after year, for 12 astonishing years, Rosetta found herself pregnant, embracing the miracle each time. 11 children, a vibrant tapestry of boys and girls, ages ranging, personalities clashing and complementing, now filled their home. Life transformed into an intricate ballet of diaper changes that seemed endless, school runs orchestrated with military precision, and doctor's appointments dotting the calendar like constellations. Motherhood, in its most intense form, was a relentless demand on her energy, her time, her very being. Yet beneath the exhaustion, an undeniable, fierce love pulsed. She wouldn't trade it for anything. The couple navigated this extraordinary life with quiet determination. Michael worked diligently as a contractor for a local building company, his hands shaping structures, while Rosetta, an administrative assistant for a decorating firm, skillfully managed her workload from home, ensuring she remained anchored for her children's needs. Their finances were a constant tightrope walk. There was always enough for food on the table, clothes on their backs, and a roof over their heads, but luxuries were scarce, savings accounts lean. Still, their home resonated with a richness money couldn't buy, the richness of shared moments, unwavering support, and boundless love. They were happy, profoundly so, in their beautifully unconventional world. A typical day in the Sanchez household began before the sun had fully crested the horizon. Rosetta, a maestro in her own kitchen, would orchestrate breakfast on a scale that would intimidate a short-order cook. The sizzle of bacon, 3 entire packets filled the air, mingling with the aroma of toast, 2 full loaves disappearing rapidly, and the gentle crackle of eggs, 2 dozen scrambled or fried to perfection. As the children tumbled from their beds, rubbing sleep from their eyes, they gravitated toward the large kitchen table, a vibrant mosaic of ages and burgeoning personalities. Chatter filled the air, punctuated by yawns and the occasional squabble over the last piece of bacon. Post-breakfast, the house transformed into a whirlwind of activity. Rosetta, patient and practiced, helped the younger ones navigate the complexities of buttons and shoelaces, while the older children, seasoned veterans of the morning rush, dressed themselves with varying degrees of speed and tidiness. Then came the logistical marvel, fitting 11 children, plus backpacks brimming with books and lunches, into the family's large, dependable van. It was their chariot, carrying them through the morning commute, a journey always accompanied by a symphony of chatter, laughter, inside jokes, and the inevitable, fleeting disputes over window seats or who got to control the radio. Once every child was safely deposited at their respective school gates, Rosetta would return to the comparative quiet of her home office. Working remotely was a blessing, allowing her to contribute financially while remaining the ever-present hub of her family's universe. The constant hum of activity, the the distant sounds of play during breaks, the knowledge that she was there. This wasn't a distraction. It was the comforting soundtrack to her life. A large family wasn't just something she managed. It was the environment where she thrived, the source of her deepest joy. Lunchtime saw another culinary feat. Rosetta paused her work to conjure a nutritious meal, ensuring her growing brood received the fuel they needed. Lean meats, whole grains, vibrant salads, and mountains of fresh fruits and vegetables graced the table. Her children, blessed with healthy appetites honed by constant activity, eagerly devoured whatever masterpiece she presented. The afternoon often brought the Herculean task of laundry. With 13 people under one roof, the pile was less a chore and more a permanent household fixture, an Everest of clothes demanding to be washed, dried, and folded. Yet, even this endless cycle brought a strange satisfaction as Rosetta worked her way through it, bringing order to the gentle chaos, one folded shirt at a time. Caring for her children in every practical sense was an act of love she cherished. The late afternoon brought the return of the younger children from school, followed by a precious pocket of quiet as they settled down for naps. This brief interlude was Rosetta's time to catch up on work, perhaps steal a few moments with a cup of tea, or simply breathe in the temporary tranquility. It was a running joke in the family that the sheer number of children seemed to dilute any potential for major conflict. They were generally well behaved, perhaps too busy navigating the crowd to invest much energy in fighting. Evenings were anchored by the ritual of family dinner. Rosetta loved experimenting with new recipes, and her children, adventurous eaters by necessity and nature, were always eager tasters. The dinner table was their sanctuary, a place to reconnect after a day spent apart. Stories were shared, successes celebrated, and challenges discussed. Rosetta and Michael fiercely protected this time, believing deeply in the power of coming together, reinforcing their bonds as a unit. After the plates were cleared, an effort the older children routinely helped with, the evening would unfold. Homework sessions commenced in various corners of the house, games were played, and a comfortable rhythm settled in. Later, once the younger ones were tucked into bed, Rosetta and Michael might finally steal some time for themselves, perhaps watching a movie, discussing the day's events, or simply sitting in comfortable silence. They were a team, partners in this extraordinary, demanding, and deeply rewarding life. It was utterly exhausting, a constant drain on their resources and energy, but they knew they were building something unique, something precious. But on this particular evening, after dinner, a wave of profound unease washed over Rosetta, different from the usual fatigue. "Robbie, Rena, please, can you guys help clear the table?" she asked, her voice lacking its usual strength. "Mom isn't feeling too well." Her older children, accustomed to pitching in, exchanged concerned glances. Their mother, the supermom of the household, was rarely sick. "What's wrong, Supermom?" asked little 6-year-old Benjamin, his innocent eyes wide with concern as he approached her chair. Rosetta forced a smile, trying to mask the strange queasiness churning within her. "Nothing, darling. Maybe Mommy just ate a little too much for dinner." Benji, satisfied, planted a sweet kiss on her tummy before running off, giggling, to join his siblings. As she watched her children efficiently clear the remnants of the meal, Rosetta struggled to catch her breath. Cold sweat prickled her brow. This wasn't indigestion. This felt wrong, deeply wrong. The Wonder Mom, the unflappable center of their universe, had no inkling of the storm gathering within her. "Michael, Michael," she called out, her voice strained. "Where's your father?" She directed the question towards the living room, where Stephen, her eldest at 12, was engrossed in a television show. He didn't even turn around. A non-committal shrug was his only response, his eyes glued to the screen. A fresh wave of nausea coupled with a dizzying lightheadedness washed over Rosetta. Clutching her stomach, she tried to stand, aiming for the sanctuary of her bedroom. She took only a few wobbling steps before the world tilted violently. Her knees buckled. There was no time to cry out, no time to brace herself. The darkness that had been lurking at the edges of her vision surged forward, engulfing her completely as she collapsed onto the floor, unconscious. Thump! The sound, muffled but distinct, reached 7-year-old Allison in the bathroom. She poked her head out, curious. Then she saw her mother, utterly still, sprawled on the hallway floor. Panic seized her. "Help! Mom fell! Stephen, come here!" she screamed, her voice piercing the sudden silence. Children came running from every direction, their playful chatter instantly replaced by cries of fear and confusion as they converged on their mother's still form. Stephen, jolted from his TV trance, saw the scene and his face drained of color. "Dad! Dad!" he yelled, his voice cracking with terror. Michael burst through the back door, tools still in hand from a side job he'd been finishing in the garage. "What's happening? What's all the screaming?" His eyes scanned the terrified faces of his children, following their gaze to the heartbreaking sight on the floor. "Rosetta!" He dropped everything and rushed to his wife's side, his heart hammering against his ribs. Fingers trembling, he checked her pulse. Thump, thump, faint but there. Relief washed over him, quickly followed by adrenaline. "He's breathing. Thank God," he murmured. "Stephen, run next door. Tell Mrs. Lynch we have an emergency. Ask her to please come over and watch everyone. Go now." Stephen, pale but resolute, nodded and sprinted out the front door without a word. Michael gently, carefully lifted his wife into his arms. She was a solid woman, big-boned and strong, but he knew her weight, the familiar feel of her in his embrace. Adrenaline lent him strength as he carried her out to the van. Drive to the hospital was a blur, 6 minutes of sheer terror and focused desperation. Stop signs became suggestions, traffic lights mere recommendations. He prayed silently, fervently, navigating the streets with autopilot precision. As they screeched to a halt at the emergency entrance, hospital staff were already waiting, alerted by his frantic phone call en route. Michael watched in a haze of horror as Rosetta, still unconscious, was whisked away on a gurney, disappearing through swinging doors into a sterile, cold, white ward. The doors swung shut, leaving him alone in the echoing hallway, the silence suddenly deafening. 20 agonizing minutes crawled by like hours. Michael paced, ran his hands through his hair, checked his phone for updates from Mrs. Lynch, and prayed. Finally, a doctor in green scrubs emerged, his expression unreadable. "Dr. Johnson, is she?" Michael couldn't finish the sentence, his eyes wide and bloodshot, pleading for good news. He felt utterly drained, the adrenaline replaced by a bone-deep wariness. "She's fine. She's stable. She's awake," the doctor stated calmly, offering a small, reassuring smile. Relief, potent and overwhelming, washed over Michael. He sagged against the wall. "Can I see her?" "Yes, that's fine, but please, don't agitate her." "We're still running tests," the doctor cautioned, his tone firm but kind. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you," Michael breathed, pushing himself off the wall and heading towards the indicated room. He found Rosetta sitting up in the hospital bed, looking pale, fragile, and deeply saddened. "Oh, Michael," she whispered as he rushed to her side, taking her hand in both of his. Her skin felt cool. "They're still doing more tests," she explained, her voice weak. "They think it might be low blood pressure, or something." Michael leaned down and kissed her forehead gently. "Just relax, honey. You're going to be okay. We'll figure this out." He tried to project a confidence he didn't entirely feel. Rosetta trusted her husband implicitly, but a deep unease lingered within her. Something felt fundamentally off. Just then, Dr. Johnson re-entered the room, a file in his hand and a slightly perplexed expression knitting his brow. "Mrs. Sanchez, I've contacted your previous physician, Dr. Singh, your gynecologist. I wanted to get a clearer picture of your medical history." Michael frowned, confused. "Gynecologist? Is everything okay, doctor?" He scrutinized the doctor's face, searching for clues. Dr. Johnson sighed softly. "I think you both might want to sit down for this." He gestured toward the visitor's armchair beside the bed. "Based on initial results, well, I need to run some more specific tests." A new kind of nervousness, cold and sharp, pierced through Rosetta's lingering dizziness as she was prepped for further examination. Why call Dr. Singh? She'd never experienced major complications during her previous 11 pregnancies, but she knew motherhood was unpredictable. Yet when Dr. Simvic Johnson asked for a urine sample and mentioned needing an ultrasound machine, a wild, improbable suspicion began to bloom in the back of her mind. Could it be? Lying on the examination table, the cool gel spreading across her abdomen, Rosetta waited, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Dr. Johnson moved the ultrasound transducer slowly, his eyes fixed on the monitor. After a few moments of intense silence, a slow smile spread across his face. He looked from the screen to Rosetta, then back again. "Rosetta," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and amusement, "you are incredibly fertile. You truly are destined for a big family." A complex cocktail of emotions surged through Rosetta. Shock, disbelief, a flicker of excitement warring with profound apprehension. The stethoscope felt like ice against her skin as the doctor continued his checks. She had always dreamed of this, hadn't she? A house full of life. But another one? Now? The doctor had indeed been surprised reviewing her extensive history. Fainting spell, combined with initial blood work, had prompted the more thorough investigation. Now the ultrasound screen held the undeniable truth. He stepped out briefly, returning with a printout. "Well," Dr. Johnson announced, unable to contain his smile, "it looks like congratulations are most definitely in order. You two are pregnant." Rosetta felt the blood drain from her face. "Pregnant? Are you absolutely sure, doctor?" Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her vision. How is my body possibly going to handle this again?" The words tumbled out, laced with fear and exhaustion. "You're strong, Rosetta," the doctor reassured her gently. "I'm sure you'll be fine with child number 12. You're only a few weeks along, so it's very early days, but everything looks normal for this stage." Following month, Rosetta and Michael returned to the doctor's office, their hands clasped tightly together, a silent testament to their shared anxiety and tentative hope. They sat patiently, the air thick with anticipation, as Dr. Johnson performed another ultrasound. He moved the transducer, focused intently on the screen, and then let out a low whistle. He turned to them, his eyes wide. "Well, folks," he said, a touch of disbelief in his voice. "Looks like we have an update. You're having twins." "Twins!" Rosetta and Michael stared at each other for a beat, then burst into simultaneous tears. Tears of shock, joy, and perhaps a little bit of panic. They hugged fiercely, laughter mingling with their sobs. Twins! After 11 children, now 2 more were on the way. While Rosetta grappled with the sheer magnitude of it, Michael's mind immediately jumped to logistics and finances. 13 children. He knew deep down they could manage, they always did, but it would be more than a stretch. It would require significant adjustments. He resolved then and there, silently vowing to shield Rosetta from any additional worry during her pregnancy. He would work harder, find more contracts, save every possible penny. But the surprises weren't over. Rosetta's pregnancy progressed, marked by more intense fatigue and discomfort than she remembered from previous times. Around the 6th month, she experienced sharp, persistent pains that sent waves of alarm through both her and Michael. He didn't hesitate, rushing her back to the doctor's office immediately. As she sat in the waiting room, Rosetta couldn't help but marvel at the ever-expanding tapestry of her family. She envisioned 2 new little faces, 2 more sets of tiny hands to hold. Despite the physical challenges, the anticipation of welcoming these babies, imagining the joy they would bring, warmed her. When Dr. Johnson called her in, however, his expression was serious. He reviewed her chart, asked detailed questions about her symptoms, and decided on another, more thorough ultrasound, citing the unusual pain and her complex history. Rosetta lay on the table once more, a familiar sense of nervousness washing over her. She trusted Dr. Johnson, knew he was meticulous, but the intensity of his focus during this scan felt different. The technician conducting the ultrasound worked in silence for a long time, her brow furrowed in concentration. She kept repositioning the transducer, zooming in on different areas. Then she gasped softly. Dr. Johnson leaned closer to the screen, his eyes widening in astonishment. He double-checked the readings, murmuring to himself. He looked from the screen to Rosetta's anxious face and back again. Initially, a fleeting, terrifying thought of a tumor or complication crossed his mind, given the unexpected findings. But further, careful examination revealed something far more astonishing. Hidden behind the 2 clearly visible growing fetuses nestled deep within Rosetta's womb were not 1, but 2 more distinct heartbeats. The technician pointed them out, tiny forms shadowed by their larger siblings. Dr. Johnson meticulously confirmed the findings. Not twins. He took a deep breath, meeting Rosetta's questioning gaze. "Rosetta," he began, his voice filled with wonder, "remember how I said you were incredibly fertile?" He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. "You're not having twins." He saw the confusion, the flicker of fear in her eyes. "You're pregnant. With triplets." The word hung in the air, heavy and unbelievable. Then, as if that wasn't enough, the doctor pointed to a specific area on the screen. "And look here, tucked right behind his brothers, there's another little heartbeat. Fainter, smaller, but definitely there. It appears, Rosetta, Michael, you're expecting quadruplets." No, wait. His initial count had been correct amidst the shock. The smaller one was indeed the 3rd. My apologies, the angle was tricky. It is triplets, 2 boys, and it looks like 1 girl. And then, yes, behind the others, there's another little boy, significantly smaller, but viable. He reevaluated. Hold on, let me remeasure. My mistake in the excitement. The initial assessment holds. It is triplets, 2 boys and 1 girl. One of the boys is indeed quite a bit smaller, hiding back there. Rosetta felt like she couldn't breathe. Michael, standing beside her, looked utterly dumbfounded, his face pale. Triplets, 3 more babies, bringing their total to 14. 14 children. The number itself seemed impossible, staggering. Tears streamed down Rosetta's face, but this time they were an uncontrollable torrent of shock, fear, joy, and sheer, overwhelming disbelief. Michael wrapped his arms around her, holding her tightly as they both tried to process the monumental news. Triplets. A smaller boy, hiding behind his siblings, healthy and strong despite his size. They already had 2 sets of twins, but triplets felt like entering an entirely new dimension of parenthood. The following months became a whirlwind of accelerated preparation, anticipation, and burgeoning excitement, tinged with undeniable anxiety. Rosetta grew faster than ever before, her body working overtime to nurture 3 precious lives. Michael threw himself into work with renewed ferocity, taking on every extra job, every overtime hour he could find, driven by the monumental responsibility of providing for 14 children. They needed more than just adjustments now. They needed significant changes. They found and moved into a bigger house, trading in their trusty van for an even larger vehicle capable of transporting their small army. They stocked up on baby supplies exponentially. 3 cribs, 3 car seats, mountains of diapers, bottles, and tiny clothes. The news of triplets sent ripples of excitement, and perhaps a little disbelief, through the Sanchez household and their wider community. The older children, ranging from adolescence down to toddlerhood, were thrilled at the prospect of 3 new siblings joining their ranks. They eagerly debated names, helped paint the nursery, a logistical puzzle involving 3 cribs, 3 changing tables, and triple the usual gear, and promised to be the best big brothers and sisters ever. They were all embarking on this incredible, slightly terrifying adventure together. Michael, despite his unwavering support and love, privately battled waves of anxiety about the future. 14 mouths to feed, 14 futures to secure. Could he truly provide everything they needed? He meticulously tracked his extra earnings, watching his savings grow, albeit slowly. He managed to put aside over $10,000, a buffer he hoped would ease the initial financial strain of the triplets' arrival. Would it be enough? He pushed the doubt aside, focusing on the imminent joy. Rosetta, a seasoned professional in the art of pregnancy, found this time uniquely challenging. The physical strain was immense, but the emotional weight felt even heavier. 14 children, the number echoed in her mind. She poured her energy into preparing their home, ensuring every corner was cozy and welcoming for the new arrivals, while simultaneously managing the needs of her existing 11. She navigated hormonal surges, moments of doubt, and overwhelming fatigue, leaning heavily on Michael's steadfast presence. He constantly reminded her to rest, to avoid stress, warning her gently that it wasn't good for her or the babies. As the due date loomed closer, an electric excitement filled the Sanchez home. Michael arranged time off work, determined to be present for every moment. The children crafted colorful welcome signs, adorning the house in anticipation. Family and friends rallied around, offering support, meals, and words of encouragement. Rosetta, feeling the immense pressure and miracle of it all, decided she wanted her support system close. The birth of triplets was high risk. She knew she would need more than just Michael and the medical team. She needed her village. Finally, the day arrived. Labor began, intense and demanding. Michael drove Rosetta to the hospital, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm of excitement and fear. He was usually a calm presence, but the stakes felt impossibly high this time. Rosetta, remarkably, remained calm and collected on the surface, though her eyes betrayed the intensity of the contractions and the eagerness to meet her babies. The hospital team was ready, efficient and reassuring. Rosetta was swiftly admitted to the delivery room, Michael pacing nervously outside, revisiting the familiar anxiety of childbirth, amplified threefold. The entire Sanchez clan, minus the very youngest, waited anxiously in the designated family area, their collective energy focused on Rosetta. They understood the magnitude of this moment, the culmination of months of anticipation and worry. Inside the delivery room, the atmosphere was charged. Rosetta, drawing on reserves of strength she didn't know she possessed, worked through the painful contractions. And then the miracles began. The first baby arrived, a healthy boy announcing his presence with a lusty cry. Lucas. Relief washed over the room. Shortly after, his sister made her entrance. Beautiful and perfect. Sophia. Michael and Rosetta exchanged tearful, exhausted smiles. Their hearts swelled. Finally, after a bit more effort, the third baby, the smaller boy who had played hide-and-seek on the ultrasound, was born. Noah. He was delicate, smaller than his siblings, but undeniably a fighter. His tiny cries joined the chorus. 3 healthy babies, Lucas, Sophia, and Noah. 14 children. The reality settled upon Rosetta and Michael, wrapped in layers of exhaustion, relief, and overwhelming joy. They had done it. Tears streamed down their faces, not just from the physical ordeal, but from the sheer, unbelievable blessing of it all. They described the birth later, the memory sharp and vivid, laughing through their tears. It was a familiar miracle, yet it never, ever got old. Their family, their incredible, sprawling, unique family, was now complete. They felt like the luckiest, most overwhelmed, happiest parents on the planet. Michael looked at his 3 newest children, then at Rosetta, his heart overflowing. "I'm going to have to pick up some extra time at the office," he murmured, the practicalities already asserting themselves. Rosetta, holding one of the babies, smiled tiredly but firmly. "We're going to be fine, Michael. Don't worry," she assured him, her voice filled with the quiet confidence that had always anchored them. "We'll find a way. We always do." The following weeks dissolved into a predictable yet amplified blur of round-the-clock feedings, mountains of diapers, and precious little sleep. But the Sanchez family, veterans of newborn chaos, took it all in stride. Rosetta, a natural nurturer, seamlessly integrated the triplets into their routine, while Michael proved an invaluable partner, juggling work with nighttime feeds and endless baby holding. The older children became an indispensable support team, pitching in enthusiastically, taking turns cuddling the babies, helping with chores, and reading stories. They weren't just siblings, they were a well-oiled support crew. As the triplets grew, their distinct personalities began to shine. Noah, true to his early days in the womb, was the quiet observer, content to watch the bustling world around him with wide, curious eyes. Lucas was the adventurer, rambunctious and always on the move, exploring his surroundings with boundless energy and inevitably getting into mischief. Sweet Sophia, with a smile that could melt glaciers, charmed everyone she met, radiating warmth and affection. Years unfolded, marked by milestones big and small. Rosetta remained the unwavering heart of the family, dedicating herself completely to her children's well-being, education, and happiness. Sacrifices were made quietly, consistently, ensuring her 14 children had a loving, stable, and nurturing home. Despite the immense challenges, the logistical complexities, the financial pressures, the sheer volume of noise and activity, her determination never wavered. Her children, a testament to her love and guidance, were generally well-behaved, happy, and deeply connected to one another. She knew with quiet pride that she was a great mom. Rosetta and Michael watched their children flourish, growing into unique individuals, yet bound by the extraordinary circumstances of their family. They were happy, healthy, and fiercely loyal to one another. Looking back, Rosetta never once regretted her dream of a large family. It consumed her time, her energy, her resources, but it filled her life with a richness and love she wouldn't trade for anything. It was, she knew, the best, most challenging, most rewarding thing she had ever done. The Sanchez family inevitably became local legends in sunny New Mexico. Their sheer size drew attention wherever they went. Outings often involved friendly curiosity from strangers, people stopping to admire the incredible brood. Rosetta handled it with grace, though she sometimes had to gently decline requests for photos or introductions to every single child simply due to time constraints. "There just isn't time for everyone," she'd say with an apologetic smile. Their unique life even garnered attention online, where they occasionally shared glimpses of their beautifully chaotic world, connecting with others fascinated by their journey. When the triplets turned 1, the family threw a massive party. Cake, balloons, music, and a house overflowing with family and friends marked the occasion. Rosetta, ever the organizer, pulled out all the stops, even arranging for some lively entertainment, a local band, and a magician who captivated the younger children. Looking around at the joyous chaos, at Michael by her side, at her 14 children laughing and playing, Rosetta felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude. She was, without a doubt, the luckiest woman in the world. Sophia, Lucas, and Noah grew up as an inseparable trio, sharing adventures, navigating school together, and even forming a noisy, enthusiastic family band in the living room. The Sanchez house was perpetually filled with laughter, music, arguments, and an abundance of love. They were a self-contained universe, always the center of attention, a whirlwind of energy that they embraced wholeheartedly. Rosetta's dream hadn't just come true. It had exceeded her wildest imaginings. 14 beautiful, vibrant children, each loved fiercely and unconditionally. She watched them grow, knowing they were destined to make their own unique marks on the world. Her heart filled with pride and anticipation for their futures. Their family journey had its share of bumps, financial scares, and logistical nightmares, but their foundation of love and mutual support saw them through every challenge. With each passing year, Rosetta and Michael's bond deepened. Their love for each other mirrored and magnified in the love they shared for their children. Their family was their greatest blessing, their little army, as Michael sometimes called them, always ready to stick up for each other. In the end, the immense love and unwavering dedication of Rosetta and Michael bore incredible fruit. Their children grew into successful, compassionate, and loving individuals, each contributing their unique talents and perspectives to the world. Though the path had been demanding, fraught with challenges unseen by most, Rosetta and Michael knew that the boundless love that defined their family was, and always would be, more than enough. Did you find this incredible story of family, resilience, and unexpected blessings touching? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your reactions in the comments below. If you enjoy inspiring stories like this one and want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel and exploring other videos. Your support helps bring these amazing narratives to light. Thank you for watching.